JEG is one of the people in this world who really make a difference. His pursuit to further the use of geothermal energy, which is under our feet to be used. I mean, we don't have to pull it in, it's there. And by the way, half of our house is geothermal, and we love it. He's known throughout the country. When I first got to know him, and people said, I mentioned geothermal, everyone said, oh, do you know JEG? And he traveled here from his office in Florida, and the plane was only 2 hours late. That's good, okay. He's going to talk about this wonderful, wonderful source of energy which we have that we should be taking advantage of. And Sharon, I think we should look at it. Municipal buildings should be having geothermal. I think more and more we should look into this if it's possible. With that, JEG.
It's always such a pleasure to be here. This is one of my favorite events of the year. So I'm grateful to be here. When I first came a few years ago, it was either 3 or 4 years ago, Rhea said, this is the last one. I said, no, no, I want to come here again. And I have a chance to do a lot of pretty fun things, but this is without a doubt the most remarkable event I get to be in each year. The talk we had around the table with our fellow speakers yesterday was substantive and constructive, and we get things done as a group, as a community. I'm very pleased to be here. We have a new mission statement at EggGeo worldwide: eradicating energy poverty. When you have to pay in the rural areas $800 a month or $600 a month to heat your home, it's heat or eat. It's even heat or eat in some communities that would be called cities if they don't have access to the right type of equipment, if they don't have access to the right type of technologies. We can solve this dilemma by giving people the utilities they really need to heat at a reasonable cost. I was pleased to be a part of New York's effort to integrate geothermal into the economy here, starting in 2015, when I was asked by the New York City Council to come up and explain to them how they are going to turn 900,000 out of the 1.1 million buildings in New York City to geothermal, because they had done their research and they knew there was no other way to manage the grid demand and decarbonize. So I traveled here, and it was upstate here somewhere. I don't even remember where now. It's probably Albany, but it wasn't in New York City. No, maybe it was. I don't know. I can never remember where. We're in Syracuse today, that much I know. We talked about this, and New York Geo had just started. I've been in New York since before New York Geo was a thing. And we started talking about this. And what really happened is the city and the state got behind this. They actually had an educational program, which we're trying to do here, where we went from city to city, from church to church, from library to library, and did community outreach. And NYSERDA paid for all of that. They knew that we needed to educate, and nobody has done it so effectively as New York State. I'm very pleased with it. So what is a thermal energy network? We're going to talk a little bit about that. A thermal energy network is a energy integration tool. First of all, it's important to understand that nearly 50% of all the energy the built environment consumes is thermal, not electrical. Electrical can get out of whack when we do it the wrong way. What happens in the winter when you're using an electric heater, if everybody's using electric, is the grid would break. We saw that in Texas, and we see that when people are adding space heaters to the load. In addition to that, electric also cools, unlike natural gas and other fossil fuels. It provides cooling, heating, domestic hot water, pools, recreational facilities, office buildings, data centers, the ability to share energy. You see kind of in the middle a data center energy recovery, and it says energy recovery because data centers are great big heat machines. They put off a lot of thermal energy, and normally all they want to do is reject that energy through cooling towers to the air. Meanwhile, the people in the next apartment building are paying through the nose for heat, even if it's natural gas. And that energy can be pumped from one building to another. Using that opaque line here, it circulates energy around a city or a community, and if you have extra energy, you give it out to the thermal energy network. What does it look like? Do you know what a water main looks like? That's what it looks like. It's a pipe filled with water, and its only purpose is to attract and reject thermal energy, depending on the needs of the building. So whether you're a CHP, that's a combined heat and power plant that has a lot of extra energy, or an apartment building that needs energy, or a community pool that needs energy, you can use all of that waste heat. And here's something that you need to remember as a fact. Every single urban center, Syracuse, anywhere, has more thermal energy than all the people in the community can use and to spare. It's normally set out when you think about the condensers outside. It's getting blown out in the summer. And then what you don't realize is that in the winter, the commercial office buildings and other factories and dense populated buildings are rejecting heat even on the coldest day of the winter. So that's what we take and we move it around the community. So most of us know, because you've been in it, you've dug a hole, or you just know it because of your studies or some factoid you heard. But the Earth maintains a constant, steady temperature, and by employing that resource, we can make heating available on the coldest day of the year, and cooling can be much more efficient. For example, here it's 55 degrees year-round. So when you're trying to cool a building and you're rejecting heat, it's a lot more effective to reject it to 55 degrees. A heat pump or a geothermal system does not create heat. It moves heat from a place you have it to a place you need it. Either it's in the ground or another building that has it, you move it into the space you need it, or you pump it out of a building in the summertime to help cool it. We have contracts for the concept I'm going to share here, and then I'm going to share something that I think is remarkable going on here in New York. In Texas, in the colder part of Texas, there is a big wave park and lagoon going in with hotels and a big shopping center and some commercial buildings around it. It's an entire development. And if you haven't seen wave parks, they're pretty neat. People can surf on those. Maybe you've been to Disney World, to Typhoon Lagoon, and you've seen the big wave machine. These are becoming all the rage. They are popping up all over the place. Not so much in the north, but we just put in a concept with a wave park going into Massachusetts. Now let me explain. What is a data center? A data center is an incredible heat source. That's what they need to be looked at like for our communities. When we do this, if you don't know the terminology in data centers, it's mentioning 6 megawatts here. Many hyperscale data centers are 1 gigawatt. 1 gigawatt is enough to heat a community of 300,000 in the coldest day of the winter. We have these resources coming online, and thankfully people are paying attention to it. Before I talk about something that New York is doing, I want to talk about some of the reasons why this makes even more sense. In commercial buildings, we use cooling towers, typically. That's what the industry uses. And these cooling towers use water and the evaporative effect when it's 90 degrees outside to cool down the refrigerant system to a point where it can chill the data center or the office building or what have you. These cooling towers are actually the second highest consumer of fresh water in the country. We don't hear about them because it's like, what do you do with them? You know, they think they're a necessity. In other words, infrastructure thinks it's a necessity. With a cooling tower, you lose 70% to evaporation and 30% to concentrated blowdown, they call it. Thermal energy networks not only fix the heat or eat dilemma, but they also eliminate cooling towers. Maybe some of you remember in 2016 the epidemic from Legionella in New York City. If you were to Google Legionella on any summer or warm day, and we're coming into April, I guarantee you would find a headline somewhere of a Legionella outbreak somewhere in the country, certainly somewhere in the world. What happened in New York City happens all the time in hospitals. That's one of our biggest clients these days because people are immune suppressed. And so hospitals are looking at it like, we need to get rid of these because they're an infection risk. And so we've had the opportunity to do many, many of these projects for healthcare, but now the data center epidemic, I don't mean to say epidemic, they're good. The data center growth is what's really affecting us. Everything's about data centers and getting power to data centers. So one thing we can do, and this talk isn't about creating energy, electricity from the earth. While our company does that, we don't want to talk about it here because it's not really something that is feasible so much here today. 10 years from now, talk to me. We have some technologies where you'll be able to put a geothermal electricity plant anywhere. It's coming. So we will do that when the time is there. But what we can do now is, as the state finds ways to create energy for these data centers, or as they install their very own combined heat and power plants, we have a way to better manage that. The micron angle looks at data centers as a computational boiler. It is so obvious that it is absolutely insane for a data center to go in a location where the heat cannot be piped to the community. Let me give you an example. How far is reasonable, or at least in the past, to run a natural gas line to a community? 10 miles, 20 miles, 50 miles, interstate? Oh yeah, we've been fighting them, haven't we? Why do they run that natural gas pipeline through communities? Because it's energy. This is exactly that same kind of energy. It's thermal energy without any of the combustion. The heat has already been created, and to not use it is criminal. It is an absolute waste of energy. So, as a result of that, I am pleased to see New York lead the way again with Bill A9136. It's mandating eco-symbiosis. That means if you put a data center in, if this bill passes, you must connect to a thermal energy network. That will be the non-starter. And that will go national. I guarantee you that's going to go national, just like the Utility Thermal Energy Networks and Jobs Act went, it's already in 15, 16 states. So, whether you're doing a data center to a surf park, and by the way, we are recommending, and this is going to happen, can you imagine going to Minnesota or Albany or Syracuse or Buffalo, and a surf park opens and it's year-round, just like a hot spring? That's what we're going to be seeing, because now, I just spoke at a data center conference just like this, and they understand. It's starting to make sense. If you locate a data center near a city or some type of recreational facility where they can use the heat, you're going to have a lot less community resistance. Can you imagine being able to swim at the local water park year-round? Isn't that neat? Yes. So the last thing I'm going to say before Rhea kicks me righteously off the stage, because she stays on track, is EggGeo is proud to be working with the DOE on the DOE Paths Prize and the Alliance for Geo-Innovation. We're cross-training over 213,000 skilled workers by partnering with organizations like the UA, the Pipe Fitters Union, and we have a 10-year sustainability plan to certify 25,000 new geothermal individuals. And I want to talk about that. You're thinking you got to be in the trades. No. Are you a data processor out of work? Are you? We've created a map that will do that, and that's what the DOE is paying us to do. And that is all I have, and I will be here all day, as they say. Thank you.